a collective reading for some energy that I've been feeling coming in, and I feel like it's been one of those energies of like, not yet, almost not yet, kind of joyful anticipation, I suppose. But it feels like it's a so. I think I realized what it is. There's I feel like there's three obvious influences and a fourth that we can't quite see yet. And it reminds me of, so I've been the moon cycles that we just went through, the last two, I know we're connected to a third one. And then I've just recently found out that there's actually a fourth consecutive supermoon. And like in the past, I probably just would have been like, oh, I just didn't have all the information, which is true in this case, but I've been learning that there are times when that's intentional, sort of like if you're playing a song and you have an intentional tempo, right? So it feels kind of like this port one. I've been calling it port wonder. It's like a portal and it's about wonder. Definitely go look up definitions of wonder. Like it could be all sorts of senses of what the word wonder means. However, it feels like that's kind of part of that energy. So rather than like it was 1, 2, 3, and now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, instead it feels like 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like almost like there's going to be steady progress in whatever things are going on for you right now. And we'll see a little bit with some cards. Um, oops. See? And that, look at that. And I really should have expected that a little bit more because my little poppable thing is not doing very well. Hang on just a second, everybody. I'm gonna have to fix that. In any case, that's the sort of energy. And I've already, I know loads of people. This is a Mercury retrograde coming up on 29th in Gemini. So Mercury and Gemini go together. It's exalted. It's got extra big Mercury retrograde energy. So it's one of those, if you get triggered by delays or lateness or things not working out the way that you expected them to, well, expect to be triggered a lot. And if you don't get triggered by it, then don't expect to be triggered. And if you do get, if you're in a place of expecting to be triggered, then work on that because it's a lot more fun to get to the space where you know you're going to enter a kind of karmic carnival and Mercury retrograde stuff, and that you can decide to just be okay with the absurdities that come into play when Mercury retrograde comes around. But it's not just Mercury retrograde, though. We had Saturn just went retrograde like 2 days before we had that super full blood flower moon eclipse in Sag. And so it feels like those three elements are the key elements, but there's some sort of fourth element in there. Sort of like, okay, we had super full moon in Scorpio, and we had super full blood moon eclipse in Sag, and then next month I believe it's just a super full moon in Capricorn, but that's already a big one. And I don't know about the fourth. There's some things that I don't know about the fourth, which is funny because it also feels like a different sort of synchronicity for me personally. If the number four or the fourth of something is significant for you, that may be an indication that this you're going to see something to do with that. But it feels like that's kind of a part of the mystery of this port wonder, because if you think about to wonder, to be amazed by things that are a little out of the ordinary, or to even be amazed by things that are ordinary, to see ordinary things in a new way that then becomes ordinary, or remains unordinary, or is extraordinary. It's sort of an interesting energy. I actually decided I wanted a picture for this video. I was thinking my lovely mug, but then I thought, no, you know, I'd like cards. And typically I'll shuffle them and look for a main energy and I'll hold that up. And that's what you see up there. But I decided this time that I wanted to go looking for some cards, and I wasn't quite sure what cards I wanted. And it was an interesting new way to go about picking cards. Like I just kind of went through and let go, yep, that one, and that one, and that one. And the image, it's funny because I felt like what I wanted was at least one card that was very much like fantasy, which felt like the Six of Cups. But also so did the sun, but the sun also comes into kind of that playful innocence. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, what card looks the most like a pirate? And I waffled here and there, and I decided that the Page of Swords has the energy and the look of a pirate thing because it feels like there's definite pirate stuff going on, and I keep seeing the word pirate all over the place. And I'm sure now that I'm talking about it, more Google's going to pick it up, and it's going to be all sorts of fun with that. Um, but then in also in thinking about the other energies that we have going on too, we also have Pluto retrograde, and I have no idea at this moment what Neptune is doing. I'm gonna knock on his door and say, "What in the heck are you doing, Poseidon, right now?" Because I can feel a fair amount of Neptunian, Piscean energy doing something right now, but it feels like that one, two, three, and four, and that four is like, huh. Like it's not a bad thing, but it's like a delayed bit of information, but it's coming. Like something, it feels like there's a fair amount of things that are likely going to manifest for those of you on this timeline. If you're not quite on this timeline, then know that if you're catching this video, you will be soon enough. So you have something to look forward to. But for those that are on the timeline where they're in kind of a joyful expectation. If you've been in a space of learning to allow yourself to be joyfully amazed, pleasantly surprised by anything and everything around you, that releasing the need to know everything, which is a form of releasing control, if you've been doing that work, then it's likely that you will be delighted by this game that Spirit is bringing to us through Port Wonder. And I'm kind of thinking of it like it feels like in the Pirates of the Caribbean, where Captain Jack Sparrow goes to, was it Tortuga? Is it Tortuga? I don't know, the Pirates Island, right? But it's mixed in more. It's like the a little bit of the show Magicians and the show Once Upon a Time, where there's like the Enchanted Forest in certain areas and that Neverland other dimension and stuff. And there's all sorts of different. You might start noticing syncs with fairy tales like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Lion King, and some that aren't necessarily fairy tales, but like E.T. or stuff like that, Humpty Dumpty, nursery rhymes, old fables and tales, old gods and deities. Like you might start noticing synchronicities in these, and that was part of the impetus for the sun card, was like thinking like it's a bit magical, but it's also light work. It's delightful. And it's got purpose. Okay, the meanings in it have purpose. They're not just higgledy piggledy thrown in there, and also. You know, towers, but towers in this sense for this timeline is like epiphanies. And like, you might, it's like if you could go to Tortuga, to that, but it had all these different lands in them, and you knew that you could confidently travel in any of those spaces, any of them, dangerous or not, and you would always make it out, not just alive and thriving, but in ways that make you feel good about who you are. Like if you could do that, then what would you do? What towers would you let fall? What towers would you build just to knock them over? What playful things would you get into? Like if you weren't worried about the things that got canceled, or the days that you might feel extra tired, or you just knew that things were going to work out, what would you do, right? And that's what I was thinking about kind of with the tower energy, and then also with the devil energy, because like a lot of people look at the devil card as like as a negative card, but excuse me, I'm a Capricorn and that is my card, and I know darn well that it is not all about like deviousness. And there's definitely a difference between deviousness and mischievousness, right? There's a difference in the two. And so all things have that. And I also feel like I mean, especially with the pirate nature in there, and love and various different things, it certainly feels like there's, no shortage on passionate energy going on either. And likewise, these feel fitting for those that you might see around you, or any of you who are here that are still kind of like in it, like you're going to be going through the funhouse mirrors and things might be a little bit distorted for a little while, which is okay. If you're here, if you're watching this video and you feel like that's you already got an upper hand. You're already aware of what's going on, and you know that you're going to come out of it up leveled. You're going to learn something, especially with Saturn retrograde. That's like releasing limitations to have karmic return, both good and bad, right? And so it feels like this fits on that end too. Like you might have some towers, some things might fall apart that you were hoping would stay together, or they might look like they're going to, and you got to take the time to find that clarity, like that joyful inner space. There might be some and there might be some returning exes from the past. There's likely to be some truth spoken, but likely not anything in like a strong commitment sort of thing. But you might get the feeling that it's a strong commitment, even if the words don't show that. Or you might just have a few of these and shed some ego layers, because that's a lot of what Tower really is when we have something that really pokes at our ego, and it causes us to go, ah, I feel squishy, and then we fall down. Okay, so I am going to actually reshuffle and pull some cards to see what else Spirit would like to tell us about what might be going on collectively overall. And because this is collective, like not every little card or piece or thing that I might have to say, it might not all resonate with your story. Like, go with what makes you feel either correct or feels good. And if it feels icky, that's your emotional GPS saying, not for you, or at least not for you right now. If you feel like it's something that's really strong, but it doesn't feel good, either it was something from your past that you already dealt with, you don't need to go there again, or it's something in the future that it's just not time for you to know about it or to go towards it. Focus on the stuff that does feel good, that feels aligned with who you are right now. All right, let's pull some more cards. Thank you, Spirit, for some more insight about this Port of Wonder. Speaking of, I don't know how long this Port of Wonder is going to last, and I'm going to just leave it in that. I just know we're going through this portal, and I noticed from last year, like there are times that it kind of feels like we fade out of a portal or go right into another portal. And sometimes they seem to mix, sometimes they don't, and this is such a realm of absurdities that I'm not going to make myself historian of how they all have to work. But I'm just being clear that I don't know how long this one lasts for. It could last the whole Saturn retrograde, or it could just be while all these elements are going during Mercury retrograde in Gemini. Like that might just be giving the extra oomph for this weird portal to be brought in. I will say, I wanted to say part of Port Wonder is also a recognition of the energies. So if you're feeling like if you got pretty good self-love and you got a pretty good situation going on and you've been playing with manifesting things and you're really in a place where like you already feel like you've earned the things that you want, you feel good about it, and you're starting to see them come in, because I know I've talked to a few others who are feeling like they're seeing like they'll ask for something and it'll come almost immediately or show up or things like that, and they're starting to feel not just like accepting of it, but like, oh yeah, that's awesome. That's just even more awesome than if I had to wait, rather than how did that happen? That can't happen. Like if you're in a place where you're good, where you don't question, you don't need to know the whys and all that stuff, then this will probably be a very wonderful portal for you. Just be careful not to get too caught up in the like Neptunian kind of like um over dreaminess, but also play with it. It's there. You don't know, like I don't know how far you could go. I would say don't neglect grounding responsibilities, things like that. But otherwise enjoy it. And if the other side of that is wonder can be like worry, or it can highlight how we are trying to maintain control on things by having to have every last bit of information, or like trying to have a certain level of information, especially if we haven't qualified for ourselves. How much information do I need to know to feel emotionally secure about this? And also sometimes it can highlight that curiosity killed the cat sort of thing. So like, I mean, don't worry about what other people, well, do your best to work on your shadow work in not worrying about what other people are thinking, whether it's good or bad. If it's something that really needs your attention, first of all, Spirit will make sure that all your attention is on it. Trust me, I've had moments where I thought, no, this isn't for me. I don't want it. I'm trying to get away. And like my battery in the car will die and none of the other cars will be drivable and the issue will be right in front of me. I don't have to worry about qualifying if I need to be dealing with something Spirit makes sure that I know and then laughs at me about it later. So, start getting into the space to where if it's really going to be an imminent thing or some sort of danger that might keep resurfacing and for you to heal, that you will know. You will know. And otherwise, try to get to that space where you're wondering about things in a good way. And this might be really helpful for both those of you who might catch this and catch yourself worrying recently, or if you see others get into a place of worry because you know that this energy is coming up because you delightfully subscribe to this channel and watch my lives, and thank you very much. And you can let them know, like, oh, that worry, it's kind of like when, we're having really big super full moons and stuff. It can make people extra tired, and it can make people be a little extra crazy and things like that. You can reassure them, oh, you know what? This is that wonder energy. So you can turn that worry energy into wonder energy extra easy right now. And as you are able to help other people do that, you will also be continuing to teach yourself how to do that. And then it will create light. Beautiful, beautiful light. All right, so the cards that I got, it's funny. Look which one came up again. The devil. And then the hermit, and then we have the 7 of wands in reverse. Sevens have definitely been a big energy recently. And it's funny. 7 and 8 equals 15. So we got two 15s there, which, again, reduce two lovers, and then we would have the hanged man. And what's funny is this kind of seems like a hanged man sort of imagery. We got a lot of masculine energy in there and stuff. And I think what throws me off is the 7 of wands in reverse on there. Is that okay? So the hermit is facing the devil. He's looking at the devil. And the way that I have the cards, the way that I'm holding them, which I'm going to take as relevant. Hey, Pixie. I love listening on dashes too. I'm usually listening to Mavericks readings when I'm on a dash. I love it. It's so perfect to do both at the same time. Anyways, I'm looking at the devil card. And the way that I'm holding it, the hermit is covering up the masculine on here. And it feels like that's appropriate. It feels like that's saying that the masculine who was previously seeing himself as shackled to the pedestal of the devil with whatever feminine was there, is now feeling more like a hermit. And I mean, if we even just look at this, just look at it that way. He's much more the size of the devil, isn't he? And I always think of the hermit as like Merlin, and it's about going and seeking, well, not just solitude, but like seeking solitude within oneself and like dedicating oneself to a spiritual path. So, but what's funny, I feel like there's a differentiation. So, and this is more about masculine energy than it is about male, female, out of the binary. And what I'm feeling like is that those that are attuned to this masculine energy, and oh man, there's just so many timelines on it. I feel like some are entering it newly. It's kind of this, the endings meetings beginnings and graduates meeting freshmen sort of energy. So if you're in like class of 2021, it feels like this is a masculine energy that is up leveling and just and a blah 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 blah, deciding to dedicate themselves to more spiritual pursuits, more thinking about their thinking, which is metacognition, more trusting their intuition, inner guidance, things like that, getting into that Virgo energy, so thinking more about their health and stuff like that. And because Capricorn energy is in there too, like it's like that extra dose of earthiness. And it feels like with these in upright, it feels like the reason that Spirit's giving me these cards this way with the Hermit lined up with the Devil card like that is that this Hermit is not it feels like this Hermit is like the more like the class of 2021 Hermits are getting into a space where they're healing, sacral chakra stuff, sexual stuff, tantric stuff, like old stuff from their childhood. And some of them are there, like they're in that space to where now they're ready to kind of start exploring themselves. And a few of them, just a few, are probably ready to start coming and exploring things with, if you got twin flame, this could be twin flame, like they're feminines, or just like experiencing tantric energy in a new way, and they're also realizing how much their sexual energy can bind them to a person in ways that they would not be feel quite so, it wouldn't trigger their shame cycles too much. Yeah, yeah, there's solar eclipse too. I was, see, there's one, two, three, and four. Anyways, it feels like they're realizing that they have a lot more power they can stand in if they're not always giving everything of themselves. If they're not giving all their body, and they're not giving all their money, and things like that. And they're going to feel better about it too. It feels like those that are kind of like dancing in and out of the timelines of like class of 2021, and the freshman class coming in, are like they're in a place of, some of them are in a place of like the devil's in the details. Like they're looking for the devil's in the details. They're still kind of assuming the worst. They're dealing with self-worth stuff, like they're thinking about wanting to pursue their dreams, but they don't feel like they'll ever have any time. They're thinking about wanting to do fun things with friends, but they don't feel like they've got enough time, or they may be in some sort of karmic relationship or situationship that makes them feel like they can't, and they're gonna have to really face that stuff in this Port Wonder stuff, which I know, even if it lasts longer than the Mercury retrograde, it's definitely going to be strongest during the Mercury retrograde, which is going up to solstice, to June 21st, which, that's that's another powerful sun energy going on. Hello, Ashley. Um, in any case, it feels like a fair amount of these masculines, though, because remember, we did get that Seven of Wands in reverse there, which is usually a mixture of continuing a cycle of fighting, pointless fighting, or it's backing down because of recognition that you're fighting for the wrong thing. And it could be like, I mean, I don't know. I hope you guys like that I leave things open in outcomes. I feel like it's just my natural way. So I see, for some, it's that they're continuing cycles with karmics, or you may be continuing some cycles with karmics where there's just silly fighting. It's not going to get anywhere. And it's mostly just about bad boundaries, maybe a little codependence, and like stinking thinking about yourself. You could be free from it, just like the devil card teaches. Like they're not actually like tied there. They could lift the chains off their neck and take the fire and the grapes on the tail and like walk off. And like that, like if you really read into the history of the devil card too, that devil is not there to scare them or keep them there. He's there to bring them enlightenment in the dark and to teach them that not everything, like don't judge a book by a cover kind of thing. Um, karmic lessons. That's why it's related to Saturn and Capricorn. But and it could also be, I think for some of you, this might also be about elders in your life, kind of a side thing, or in somebody else's life, like aging parents, things like that. And it may simply be that you're kind of in a waypoint of a passing of time going on, which maybe, I mean, maybe that's why Spirit lined it up to happen during Port Wonder, so that you can have delicious moments with Wonder and not be worried so much. For others, it feels like this is one of those, you're not fighting, and it feels like some of you are not fighting, kind of because of a resistant energy, like, I'm not going to do that fight, I'm not going to have that fight, I'm not going to go there because it feels like I'll get drugged back down here. Now that's not wrong. Like if you feel that way, then don't do that, because you're right, the fighting is pointless. Though maybe try to get to a place in the other timeline of people that I see in a different tier of the spiral, is that it's like you're not fighting because you recognize there's just really no necessity in fighting, and there are far more fun things to do, and there's nothing wrong if you sense that there's a fight and you decide you want to go tiptoe in the tulips instead. There's nothing wrong with that. You can go meditate and draw and doodle and work and change your mind and do all sorts of things like that, and just, I think that's part of the, part of why these cards came out in this way, like the overall and I'll look at some more of the cards in the deck, but the overall, what's on top, what looks like from the outside, may look like either bad boundaries or weird communication. I would say weird communication over bad communication, just weird communication. There's already been a lot of weird tech problems too. So, like weird communication stuff, delays, because sevens are typically pauses and reflection. So, in reverse, it'd be like delays, hesitations, things like that. And but if you go to a space where you're meditating, you're doing your yoga, you're doing your you thing, you're loving you, then this stuff it's just absurdities and there's nothing to be heard on and nothing to be worried about. And you recognize that when you look at this card, like you don't see anyone at the bottom. Now, one interpretation is that there are people down there that this person is trying to defend their ground, the high ground from. But there's another interpretation that the reason you cannot see the people is because they're not actually there. These are like the funhouse mirrors where you might be looking at a distorted image of yourself as reflected in somebody else around you, and then feel like you're constantly having to defend yourself, but like in reverse, it's kind of imaginary. And also, sevens have to do with manifestation and wisdom and ancestors. And so, like, it feels like the hermit is coming in to illuminate things in Port Wonder. And really, he's kind of pirate like too, ain't he? Yarr. Welcome to Port Wonder. Yeah, and choosing to pick battles and also choosing to reframe things like that too. Like, this is a delicious time to be looking at how do we speak to ourselves? Like, if we're looking at every instance when it's desirable to communicate to others that we would like a change in something or to do that, if we're looking at all of that as conflict or the potential for conflict and we're like future telling and going to a place where it's like this might happen far out in the future, it's a good time to recognize that those are totally understandable feelings, especially if you've been around people who consistently been having that dynamic with you. But this is a very magical time. There's extra energies to be like it's I need to look at what Neptune's doing. I swear it's Neptune doing a lot of this stuff, but it might just be the combination of everybody else doing what they're doing, and Neptune might just be floating out there going, "I'm just enjoying this energy like rest, y'all. I ain't doing nothing," you know. Um, but like it's definitely one of those times that like in any ordinary moment you should be looking to speak your heart and speak your truth, and whether or not it creates conflict with anybody else, and to recognize that that is a conflict that's created within them. You didn't create those feelings, you didn't put them there, and just because you spoke your heart does not mean that you spoke wrongly if they have a seemingly negative reaction. And it's very likely that you were assisting spirit in some sort of way that like they maybe needed to see that, something like that. um Either way, there's extra oomph right now for things to, well, there's both sides. I mean, I think this piratey energy is you're not wrong if you're sensing that people are a little like, "Yarr, you stole my booty," kind of energy. They probably are. There's probably some resource hoarding and kind of smog energy too, like, "You got my treasure," and Smeagol, "my precious," right? There's a mixture of all these different fantasy elements going on right now. And so yeah, like I get it if it feels like oh, what do I even, how do I even put the words, do it feels like, you know what, I feel like I've just gotten to the place where I cannot get back to where I would have been before, where I could describe like terrible things happening, because every time I think of something terrible that might happen in my mind naturally now goes to the place of, but that could be fun for this reason, or that could be productive for that reason, or, so, I mean, if you can't get to that space, it's a really fun space. But I recognize that I see others around me, though, that are going through just, various parts of the funhouse mirrors. Some with the distortions aren't so bad, and they're like, oh, haha, that's really just me reflected in somebody else. And then there are others who are like, not recognizing recognizing at all that the reflections that they're seeing through others are totally things that they're doing, and it's freaking them out, and it's okay. And others are recognizing it, but they're not ready to address it, so they're kind of like hiding out, like the stowaways. And I'm thinking, what is it, Long John Silver and things like that. Like there's all sorts of characters that you're probably going to recognize, and see syncs about and stuff. I see several of you in the comments talking about already having seen syncs like that. So, and I know others have been, like even Maverick was talking about Yellow Brick Road and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I swear I just got called to watching several Johnny Depp movies, and I think I listed a couple of them in the community section as energies coming up, right? Yeah, see? And MySpace. That's so funny. Yeah, and fairy energy and mushroom energies and weird, like it's gonna get weird. What's that? Oh man, what's that? What from? Is that from Ghostbusters? Hang on, it's gonna get weird. Melissa McCarthy. I can't remember. I think she might say that just in her own nature, which is just delicious. In any case, and as my phone keeps showing, there's a potential. Well, I mean, right now is an extra time for things not to go as planned. For people to be a little bit clumsier, for stuff to fall apart, things like that. Just, we're already heading into it, so you could probably see from the last couple of weeks what sort of energy is lining up. But that doesn't mean that you can't decide now, the day before Mercury retrograde, to, what set your intention. What is it that you would like to come out of Mercury retrograde having learned? And the same with Saturn retrograde. I mean, Saturn's big energy in there, and if you haven't gotten to the point where you can believe that others' malicious acts are your own. Well, see, that's a good thing to look at too. Now, because we always reflect people around us. We don't. I think depending on the connections that we have with them, both on a day-to-day basis, and like, are we parent or child? Are we lovers? Things like that. Like it does change the angle and degree to which we are doing the same things. But usually the problem isn't in seeing that you're doing the same things. It's actually in seeing that you're doing the same things, but often for different reasons. Like somebody, um, okay, if you, okay, say that you have somebody that you love, and you see that they have like exes around them that are, they're using them, and they're not very nice, and they get them riled up and things like that. And then so you say something about it, but then you feel like you're being controlling. Well, you're not. Like, if your spirit is not in a controlling place and you would otherwise be fine, like you've had experience even to where you'd be fine with that, then it's a different energy than somebody coming in and just having really heavy insecurities or liking being that controlling. Because there's some kinky people out there who just really like both sides of that, and I'm not knocking nothing. But like, when it comes to malicious acts, a lot of times it depends. Like, look at what it is that you think is malicious, and and also look at, why are you spending so much time focusing on the malicious things going on in your life, as then when you could be focusing on all the delicious things going on in your life. The things that we put our focus into is what becomes highlighted in our lives. So like, if somebody is being malicious or not being cool, then spend more time being around people who are being delicious and awesome. And if you don't have very many, then become that delicious, awesome person yourself, and you'll naturally start pulling more people in. It's a lot of what Abraham and a lot of people talk about. Like, you attract towards you how you feel about yourself. So even if you're not doing anything malicious to anybody else, could you be being malicious to yourself in the way that you think about yourself in some way? It doesn't have to be in all ways, because that could be attracting people around you who are also mean to you. And especially if you're in an energy where you feel like everybody is like being unfair or mean to you, which it could be true. But the problem isn't whether or not you're correct. The problem is, do you want more of that or do you want less of that? If you want less of that, then you got to start feeling better about yourself. And then the reality of people being mean to you won't exist, because you'll have enough self-respect and enough self-worth to be able to just vibrate out of it. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to go through all that stuff. It's going to happen any way that you like. That's funny, because we were just watching Abraham. Well, all right, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and leave this here at 33:33. Well, now a few minutes over. Thank you so much for watching. I'm hoping that I'm going to come back on and do individual signs for a while, because I haven't been doing them and I want to do them. But I'm also not taking life that seriously. I hope you're not either. So I love you. Thank you for watching. Thanks for adding your vibes to the tribe by hitting that like button. And I'll catch you in the next video.